This is Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr., and coming up over the next several minutes, I am going to list the 10 most important Philadelphia Eagles going into the 2025 campaign. I think the most important Eagle going into this upcoming season, as the Birds look to defend their Super Bowl championship, new offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo. He's been with Nick Sirianni going back to their Colts days. He came with Sirianni to Philadelphia in 2021. Since then, he has been Sirianni's right-hand man. When we asked Sirianni about Patullo at the Super Bowl, because there were a lot of rumblings that in New Orleans, Kellen Moore was going to take that Saints job, we asked Sirianni about Patullo, and he said, my head coaching duties, my game planning duties, I run them through Kevin Patullo. So he's kind of been a de facto assistant associate head coach, and he had one of those titles last year. And as far as what the Eagles have done offensively with their game plans, Kevin Patullo has played a role within that as well. Players have talked about it. Players have advocated and rooted on the fact that the Eagles have internally promoted him. We know what happened last time, that the Eagles internally promoted an offensive coordinator. It was Brian Johnson. It didn't work out. Part of the reason it didn't work out, I thought at times he was in over his skis. I thought at times Nick Sirianni was meddling a little bit, too much a part of the game plan as far as what he wanted his offensive philosophy for his football team to be. But Brian Johnson wasn't innovative. He didn't bring about any fresh ideas. The Eagles were one of the worst teams in the NFL as far as pre-snap motion. Their offensive concepts were vanilla, mundane, not creative, and at times archaic. That led to the Eagles' offense being highly predictable, especially late in the year after the 49ers broke Philadelphia in that late season game, the rematch of the NFC Championship game the year before. And so I hope that Kevin Patullo has some new wrinkles. He has some creative ideas. He continues to do what Kellen Moore did, which was incorporate some new offensive philosophies to keep things fresh on the offensive side of the ball. And it's not going to be easy to replace Kellen Moore. The Eagles' offense last year, 5th in points per game scored, 29 per game, 8th in yards per game, 11th in yards per play, 11th on third downs, 10th in the red zone, the best rushing offense in the NFL, and they really cooked the last two games of the playoffs. NFC Championship game against Washington, a 55-burger, and then against Steve Spagnuolo, absolutely annihilated one of the top defenses and defensive coordinators in the National Football League. Most important Eagle number 2 is cornerback Kelee Ringo. Big shoes to fill with Darius Slay moving on and signing that one-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last year, Slay wasn't the normal big play Slay that he was in 2022 when he was an All-Pro, but he was better last year than he was in 2023, and his numbers were especially fantastic in the NFL playoffs. Still one of the top corners in the game, in my opinion. Good ball skills, still has speed, still has leadership, even though he says some funky things from time to time. But last year in the regular season, overall PFF grade of 67.6, a coverage grade of 68.9. In the playoffs, 77.1, and a coverage grade of 78.9. He was a lockdown corner for this number 1 overall defense under Vic Fangio. And last year, he made a lot of plays on the football. 12 pass breakups. That was 4th in the NFL. And when you lose a player who is a borderline Hall of Famer, who was a first-team All-Pro in 2017, has been to 6 Pro Bowls, was the interception co-leader in 2017, an Eagles team captain who played in 2 Super Bowls, who won one as a team captain, those are big shoes to fill. And cornerback is not an easy position to play. I like Ringo's size. I like his physicality. I like his length. He's over 200 pounds. He's over 6 feet. He ran a 4.36 40-yard dash in the pre-draft process coming out of Georgia. He's shown me some good things from time to time. But if you have a leaky valve at that outside corner spot, that could be a bad sign. Adoree Jackson getting some first-team reps there in OTAs. Cooper DeJean, Eli Ricks in the mix as well. But the Eagles probably want Kelee Ringo to win that job because they moved up to take him in the draft a couple of years ago, and the ability is certainly there. How about Moro Ojomo? Also a critical Eagle going into the 2025 campaign. He's looking to replace Milton Williams, who got $26 million per season from the New England Patriots. And a lot of people don't realize how good Moro Ojomo is and was last year. But if you watch this show, we've been talking about this for a long time. Overall PFF grade of 68, 39th among 219 defensive tackles in the NFL. Here's where it gets juicy. His pass rush grade, 82.6. Fifth at the position, despite him being 64th in pass rush snaps among defensive tackles. He was top 25 in pressures with 26, and he was top 25 in hurries with 26, and he had 31 pressures. That was 35th in the NFL. He also had the highest pass rush win rate among all Eagles defensive linemen at 18.2%. That was higher than Milton Williams. Still a young player. We've seen glimpses of him being dominant from the interior of that Eagles defensive line. And I'm saying this right now. I've been saying it. He has the potential to be better than Milton Williams. Next up, safety Blankenship. The Eagles traded away C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He was the heart and soul, the backbone of that Eagles back end and arguably of that Eagles defense. The swagger, the confidence, the physicality, the ball skills, the ability to be in the right spot at the right time to make crucial plays. Eagles are going to miss that with C.J. Gardner-Johnson now playing in Houston with the Texans. Now, some of the extracurricular stuff, probably a big reason why the Eagles moved on, because you never know when CJ is going to pop off. But when you trade a player of that caliber, and Blankenship is now the anchor in that safety room, the leader of that safety room, and Darius Slay pinned him as one of the leaders next up on that Eagles defense, there's some pressure on Blankenship. He's also going into a huge year because he has an opportunity to land a pretty lofty contract extension at a position, safety, that is really starting to blow up and explode as far as the market value there. And I think Blankenship is one of the more underrated players on this Eagles team, one of the more underrated defenders in the National Football League. Checked out very well according to PFF. Overall grade of 74.4. That was 25th at the position. 72.3 the run defense grade. 73.6 the coverage grade. He had 4 picks. That was 6th among all safeties on 524 coverage snaps. I'm a believer in the player. Exciting whites, exciting Mikes. Going to be bringing it in 2025. Jalyx is also a pivotal Eagle going into this upcoming season because the Eagles moved off of Josh Sweat, who has been a highly productive pass rusher for them ever since he got drafted out of Florida State in the 4th round. And Jalyx in the playoffs was one of the highest performing edge rushers in the entire National Football League. Overall PFF grade of 74. That was 12th among 60 playoff edge rushers. Pass rush grade of 76.5. That was 7th. He had 2 sacks. That was 6th. He had 7 hurries. That was 7th. He had 9 pressures. That was 6th. And without Brandon Graham, too, and without Josh Sweat, the pressure is on Jalyx and Nolan Smith because I think those are going to be the starting edge rushers for this Eagles defense in 2025. And speaking of Nolan Smith, he has to be on this list too, right? 1 sack as a rookie, 6.5 sacks in year 2, 4 sacks in the NFL playoffs. And his 4 sacks in the NFL playoffs, number 1 among all edge rushers. As far as his personality, it's very similar to Brandon Graham's. Always has a smile, always talking shit, always playing with great energy, good against the run, good as a pass rusher, and the Eagles look at him as one of the pillars of this organization. I have to also include Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts last year in the pass game was a little bit up and down. He was a little bit Jekyll and Hyde. He needs to be a little bit more consistent. And for Jalen Hurts, I think it's been hard for him to find a groove in the passing game because he's had like 10 offensive coordinators over his last 10 years of playing football, Alabama, Oklahoma, and in the National Football League. And then last year, the Eagles ran the ball so often as Saquon Barkley had more than 2,000 rushing yards, led the league in touches. That led to Hurts kind of struggling to find a groove in the pass game. And throwing the football at the NFL level especially can be rhythmic, right? And there was just a lack of rhythm there. But what did Jalen Hurts do? He cooked in the NFC Championship game. He was fabulous in the Super Bowl. He won Super Bowl MVP. And so I want to see Jalen Hurts build off of that because I think teams are really going to sell out in trying to stop the run against this offensive line, against Saquon Barkley, and the Eagles might have to be a more balanced offense to kind of change things up to duplicate their success as far as wins and losses and playoff success from last year to 2025. And they can really do that, I think, if Hurts can take a little bit of a leap forward throwing the football and play more consistently like he did in the NFC title game and in the Super Bowl. He's capable of it. He was the MVP runner-up in the 2022 campaign. I just want to see him be more consistent at this point of his career as he's 26 years old. He's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Again, I'm asking for something small here, though, and make Kevin Patullo's job a little bit easier and handle what he puts on your plate. Nick Sirianni, he got his contract extension. He's an important Eagle, of course, going into 2025 for these reasons here. Nick Sirianni, it is not easy in the city of Philadelphia to put together the types of seasons consecutively that Sirianni has been able to put together as the head coach of this football team. But the Eagles are no longer hunting. They are the hunted. Part of what makes Nick Sirianni one of the top coaches in the NFL, talent development, the ability to hire great coaches and develop coaches. Players have really been able to have career years and take massive strides in their respective careers under Nick Sirianni. I think he's excellent at managing the game. I think he's great at making adjustments in season and in game, catered to the strengths of the football team. But your message and your approach and how you manage your team, you manage the locker room, how you manage games, how you manage a season, it's different when you have the expectations on you from winning the Super Bowl and being a Super Bowl winning head coach. And so this season is going to be hard. The schedule is difficult. Adversity might hit. Eagles handled adversity perfectly in 2022. They did not handle adversity well in 2023. They handled it great in 2024. The 2-2 start, people wanted Nick Sirianni fired after losing against the Bucs. They go into the bye week 5. The only time they lost again was against the Commanders when Jalen Hurts got hurt. And so Nick Sirianni handled that beautifully. And when you have Super Bowl expectations coming off a Super Bowl, you're the one that has the target on your back, you're being hunted, there's more weight to that. And Sirianni's going to have to manage it. And then have to talk about Zack Baun here. Not because I don't believe he's going to play at an elite level in 2025. I think he is. But if he gets hurt or if he struggles with the injury to Nakobe Dean, the uncertainty as far as the injury to Jahad Campbell, and the lack of depth at linebacker and how impactful Zack Baun was and what he meant to that second level, if he struggles, if he gets hurt, you worry about the second level of that Eagles defense. I mean, you put it in perspective how great Zack Baun was last year. He was terrific. Finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. A first-team All-Pro in his first year playing off-ball linebacker. And Pro Football Focus, they have high expectations for him going into 2025. They put out a list of their top 10 linebackers going into this upcoming season. Zack Baun, number 2, behind Fred Warner. And the Eagles have an opportunity here to pull off highway robbery once again. Fred Warner just signed a new contract with the San Francisco 49ers. Average annual value, $21 million. Zack Baun, average annual value, $17 million. His numbers last year, 20 games, 184 tackles, 79 stops, 13 TFL, 6 quarterback hits, 3.5 sacks, 3 INTs, 7 pass breakups, 6 forced fumbles, and a passer rating of 75 allowed. Compared to Fred Warner, 17 games, 131 tackles, 53 stops, 5 TFLs, 2 quarterback hits, 1 sack, 2 INTs, 7 pass breakups, 4 forced fumbles, and a passer rating allowed of 97.5. Obviously, Baun played more games, but the difference in games isn't the whole reason why he has better stats. Warner obviously has the longer track record, but Baun will be quickly closing the gap if he can keep it up. Great tweet from Brandon Lee Gouton there of Bleeding Green Nation. And then lastly, the Eagles training staff. This is a sneaky one for me, but the Eagles have had this run of really good injury luck, players bouncing back from injuries, them being an athletic, physical, overpowering team that has had longevity and consistency as far as their health. And it was a flex from the Eagles training staff during the Super Bowl parade to hold up this sign. 21 of 22 day one starters played in the Super Bowl. That's an incredible flex right there. And if the Eagles are able to stay healthy, if injury luck is able to stay on their side, I think that they can go on a dynastic run. So whatever this Eagles training staff has done, keep it up. They have an important role here in 2025 because the Eagles now have made the playoffs every year under Nick Sirianni. They've had shorter off seasons. They play a physical brand of football, and injuries are the only thing, in my opinion, that can keep them from going on this special dynastic run. A reminder, hit that subscribe button right here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Shows coming your way every single day. We're closing in on 121,000 subscribers, so join the movement. And if you want to give me a follow on X and Instagram, find me over there at Chase_Senior.